It was supposed to be just a treaty. Nothing more than paper, signatures, and a diplomatic marriage neither party truly wanted. Earth and the alien planet Ilaria had been on the brink of war for nearly a century. To avoid destruction, they struck a deal, peace through unity, sealed with a wedding. And so, Harrison, a decorated Earth envoy, found himself standing across from Athena, the elusive Illyrian princess with eyes like galaxies and a silence that felt too ancient to question. Their honeymoon estate was isolated, serene, untouched by technology or war. Harrison thought he'd get through it, quietly, politely, and then return to life as usual. But on the third night, when the stars aligned and the wind whispered in a tongue he didn't know, she smiled. Not kindly. Not sweetly. She smiled like a queen reclaiming something long lost. Then she locked the doors. And everything he thought he knew about aliens, humanity, and even himself unraveled. This wasn't a treaty. This was a beginning. And she hadn't married him for peace. She'd married him for destiny. The world had watched in awe, some in celebration, others in fear, as the first human-alien union in history was broadcast across every major channel. Interstellar peace had come, not by force, but by vows exchanged beneath a dual-moon sky. Harrison Blake never believed in fairy tales. As a decorated diplomat, he had seen too many promises crumble under politics and power. When he was selected as Earth's symbolic groom for the alien princess of Ilaria, he didn't celebrate. He packed light. This wasn't love, it was strategy. A smile for the cameras, a kiss for the headlines. Athena was unlike anyone he had ever met. She moved like gravity bent around her, her silver eyes impossible to read. When they first met, she said almost nothing. Instead, she studied him like he was some kind of artifact. Valuable, yes, but not yet understood. He offered polite conversation. She gave back riddles wrapped in flawless diplomacy. Then came the estate. Their honeymoon destination was unlike anything Harrison expected. No grand palace or luxurious space cruiser. Just a secluded, Earth-based sanctuary buried deep in an ancient forest, where technology was forbidden and even the birds seemed hesitant to sing. A quiet cabin surrounded by mist, stone pathways, and strange symbols etched into the trees. "Privacy is sacred among my kind," Athena said on their first evening. "Silence is our way of listening." Harrison nodded. He didn't press. But silence doesn't feel peaceful when it echoes. Each day they walked, never hand in hand. Each night they dined in candlelight, speaking little. The air was thick with something he couldn't name. Not tension. Not romance. Something older. Watching. He'd wake up in the middle of the night, the fire out, shadows shifting, and always the sensation of being observed. Not by her. By the house. By the forest. By whatever energy surrounded Athena and made the wind bend around her when she passed. On the third night, everything changed. They were sitting outside, under a wide violet sky, stars shimmering like they were alive. Harrison sipped from a crystal glass. Athena stood at the edge of the terrace, bathed in moonlight, humming a haunting melody he'd never heard before. "Is that a song from your world?" he asked. She turned slowly. Her eyes shimmered. "Not just mine," she said. Before he could ask what she meant, she smiled. It wasn't soft. It wasn't shy. It was inevitable. Then, without a word, she walked inside. A few minutes later, when Harrison tried to follow, he found the doors sealed. No keypad. No handle. Just smooth, glowing metal that hadn't been there before. He called her name. Silence. The house shifted. The walls hummed. And then a voice, not hers, not mechanical, spoke from everywhere and nowhere at once. "The bond begins." A chill ran through his spine. This wasn't diplomacy. This wasn't tradition. This was a ceremony he hadn't been told about. And suddenly, Harrison realized something terrifying. This wasn't her trying to know him. This was her waiting for him to remember something. Something buried in his blood. Something ancient. And it had just begun to wake. The stars had always divided them. For 100 years, Earth and Ilaria circled each other in tense orbit, figuratively and literally. Humanity called the Ilarians aliens. The Ilarians called humans primals with promise. They met in cold rooms, exchanged guarded messages, and narrowly avoided interstellar war more times than history dared to count. But war was expensive, exhausting, and the Ilarian High Council, brilliant in their own subtle way, proposed something Earth never expected: peace by bloodline. A shared future. One symbolic union between both species to seal the first true treaty of coexistence. Of all the diplomats, warriors, scientists, and strategists Earth had, they chose Harrison Blake. He wasn't the most obedient, or the most popular, but he was unbreakable, calm under pressure, curious but not naive, the perfect face to send into the unknown, and the only one with a birth chart that matched Ilarian compatibility algorithms with zero anomalies. Not that he knew that part yet. So, they dressed him in woven silver, brushed his short, dark hair back, told him to smile, told him this would save both worlds. He stood beneath twin moons on neutral ground, surrounded by leaders, media drones, and military peacekeepers with shaky hands. And then she appeared. Athena of Ilaria. Her skin shimmered faintly in the light, gold-touched, almost iridescent. Not a hologram, not a trick of the eye. Her presence was commanding without effort. She wore ceremonial armor laced with stardust and silk. Her crown hovered an inch above her forehead, spinning ever so slightly, reacting to her breath, her emotions, or her thoughts. When she walked, the ground seemed to exhale beneath her feet. Harrison didn't blink. Couldn't. Not out of attraction, but because something in his chest, something primal, deep in the marrow, tightened. Like a forgotten thread was being pulled taut. She stopped 3 feet in front of him and stared. Longer than protocol advised. She tilted her head just a bit. Her gaze flicked up and down as if taking inventory, not of his appearance, but of him. His core. His worth. His legacy. I am Athena, daughter of the Nebular Accord, first light-bearer of the Ilarian flame. She spoke at last, her voice soft, melodious, yet impossibly old. And I accept the vow. There was no "do you" in the ceremony. No question. Only declarations. Only fate. The translator crystal at Harrison's collar vibrated once. He was to speak. I'm Harrison Blake, born of Earth, first son of... He stumbled slightly, forgetting the prescripted words. And I accept. The silence that followed was not empty. It was thick with breathless expectation. Then a surge of blue light erupted from the ceremonial dais, circling them like a slow-moving storm, wrapping around their bodies like a silken chain. Symbols appeared in midair, ancient, indecipherable to humans, but burning with authority. The bond had been acknowledged. The treaty sealed. The audience erupted in calculated applause. Across 2 worlds, governments exhaled. But Athena never smiled. Not even once. The honeymoon was not what Harrison imagined. He thought they'd be sent to a luxurious orbital resort. Or maybe an exotic alien moon converted into a diplomatic getaway. Instead, they boarded a silent craft and landed in what looked like a forest, on Earth. Not just any forest. A no-fly, off-grid, centuries-old protected zone. The trees were taller than temples. The sky was always dusky, filtered through thick, silver-leafed canopies. The estate hidden within it was crafted from blackstone and living wood. Ancient architecture, alien design. Nothing human-built ever aged so beautifully. Their shared home, the voice had called it. But it never felt shared. Harrison had his wing. She had hers. A hallway connected them, lined with strange, shifting paintings that didn't stay the same overnight. The house whispered sometimes, soft, harmonic notes that changed pitch when Athena walked past. She interacted with it like it was a pet or a guardian. He kept expecting servants, assistants, drones. None came. No staff. No security. Just the 2 of them. and the estate that felt like it had a mind of its own. On the first day, Harrison tried conversation over dinner. The table was long, carved from what looked like meteorite, lit by soft orbs floating above like fireflies. The food was odd. Not unpleasant, but nothing he could name. "Your people don't eat animals?" he asked. "We do," Athena replied, her fork hovering midair, "but only when they ask to serve." He blinked. "When they ask. They dream their intentions. The bond masters interpret." He took another bite, unsure whether that made it better or worse. Later that night, as he stared at the ceiling of his room, engraved with constellations he didn't recognize, he wondered what her life had been like before this. Did she want this? Did she hate him? Was he a political hostage? Or worse, a willing fool? The days passed strangely. Time didn't move normally in the estate. He checked his watch one morning and found it stuck at the same time 3 days in a row. The sun never shone fully. The moon always looked larger than it should. Athena avoided small talk. But she watched. Every morning, from across the courtyard, she stood under the crystal tree arch and observed him. Silent. Till the 5th day, he spoke across the gap. "You don't trust me," he said. "I don't need to," she replied. "But I need to trust you," he answered. "And I don't." Athena stepped forward once. Just once. And said, "That's not required either." Then walked away. He began to feel changed. Not physically, but perceptually. The forest whispered things to him when he walked through it alone, half-thoughts, unfinished memories. Dreams of starlight and floating cities. Of hands that weren't his building machines he'd never seen. Sometimes, he'd forget his own age. Once, he caught himself sketching a symbol into the dirt that matched one carved into the estate walls. He didn't remember learning it. And Athena, she never asked questions. But her eyes began to linger longer. Her movements became more fluid, more deliberate. And every time he asked her something direct, about her people, her past, her real reason for this marriage, she'd respond with a truth that only raised more questions. "There are bonds that rewrite entire species," she once said as they walked by the koi pond with no fish. "This is one." He didn't reply. He was starting to think she was right. On the 7th night, he saw her in the courtyard again, but something had shifted. She wore no ceremonial dress. Just a flowing wrap made of translucent threads. Her hair fell loose across her shoulders. And for the first time since the wedding, she looked tired. "Harrison," she said softly. His name had never sounded like that before. Not from her. Not from anyone. Then she smiled. It wasn't warm. It wasn't cruel. It was like someone stepping out of disguise. A queen. A warrior. A bride. But more than that. Someone who knew him. And the moment her lips curved into that perfect, haunting smile, he understood the doors would lock tonight. And his life would never be the same again. The doors didn't slam shut. They slid, soundless as breath, sealing Harrison in a house that now felt less like a sanctuary and more like a trap, ornate and gilded, yes, but still a trap. It wasn't panic that gripped him. It was certainty. Certainty that everything so far, the wedding, the estate, the silent walks through the ancient forest, had been leading to this moment. Athena's smile wasn't a flirtation. It was a signal. And the signal had been received. That night the estate changed. Subtly at first. The hallways glowed faintly from within, no longer lit by floating orbs but by veins of pulsing light that snaked along the floor and walls like living root. Doors that never existed before revealed themselves, sealed panels marked with unfamiliar sigils, glowing when he passed, darkening when he doubled back. Even time felt different. Harrison checked his communicator, dead. No signal. The sky outside had frozen into a motionless dome. No wind. No rustling leaves. Just a stillness so perfect, it felt hostile. He wasn't alone. Not truly. The house was aware now. And it wasn't entirely friendly. He didn't see Athena until deep into the second night. Harrison had been wandering, mapping in his head, testing each locked door. They didn't budge. Not even when he used strength, leverage, or tried tricking the biolock. They weren't meant to open. Not to him. Until he found the song. It wasn't loud. It was barely there, like something hummed across a great distance. A lullaby woven from stardust and melancholy. A voice that could bend mountains if it chose to. And yet it whispered. Drawn to it, he followed. Through corridors he hadn't seen before. Down a staircase hidden behind a shifting wall. Past a garden of crystal flowers that bloomed without sun. There she was, standing at the edge of a glowing pool, moonlight dancing on her skin, singing to herself in a language the translator refused to touch. Athena didn't look surprised to see him. Harrison, she said without turning. You heard it. I heard you, he corrected. She turned then, slowly. No. The memory. He stepped closer, careful with his footing, careful with his voice. What memory? Athena looked at him, as if he were asking what air was. You were there, she said simply. Long before Earth wore oceans. Before time chose names. He opened his mouth to argue, to deny the absurdity of it, but something stopped him. A flicker. A flash. Her words opened something. He saw stars in geometric patterns, spiral cities that floated above gas giant. He saw her, not as she was now, but draped in light, surrounded by beings of impossible beauty and power. And beside her stood someone. A figure whose face wouldn't come into focus, but whose heartbeat he recognized. His own. Is this some kind of psychic trick? Harrison whispered, backing a step away. Athena's eyes softened. It's resonance, she replied. Your soul is older than your bones. We all are, to some degree. But yours was remembered. He didn't want to believe her. He also couldn't unsee what he'd seen. Back in his room, sleep didn't come. The estate's hum had changed frequency. It pulsed with something ancient. Something watching. He sat by the window, staring at the sky. And then he heard it again, the song. Not from her lips this time, but from the walls, the wind, the very wood of the building. And this time, it whispered in words. The starbond awakens. He staggered back from the wall. Athena appeared in the doorway, silent, barefoot, her hair loose like ink down her back. You're resisting, she said, not angrily. Just fact. Because none of this makes sense, he snapped. I came here to be a peace offering, not to be rewritten. She studied him for a moment, then stepped closer. You believe that your mind is the highest measure of reality. That's your species' burden. And you think yours is superior? No, Athena said, so softly it startled him. I think your kind has forgotten what you used to be. She sat across from him, on the edge of the window's built-in seat. The moonlight made her seem unreal, painted in silver, sculpted in shadow. When I smiled yesterday, she began, I knew you'd follow. He said nothing. That wasn't seduction, she continued. It was recognition. I saw something open in you. A gate. One that's been closed for eons. I don't feel different. Because you haven't accepted it yet. Accepted what? That we were bonded before your people even called fire a miracle. He shook his head. This is mythology. All of it. I'm a man, not some star-chosen relic. Athena reached out. Not to touch him. Just to let her fingers hover near his chest. You think you're just a man, she said. But your heartbeat remembers me, even when your mind denies it. There was something heartbreaking in her tone. And he didn't know whether it scared him more, or moved him. That night, he dreamt again. But it wasn't a dream. He floated above a city made of refracted light, surrounded by creatures that spoke in pulses and gestures. Athena stood at his side, not a princess this time, but something more. A general, a guide, a lover. In the vision, their hands touched and the stars reacted. Nebulas flared. Planets aligned, and a name echoed in the void. Raymar. He woke up gasping. His hand was still warm. The next morning Athena was gone. The estate didn't answer when he called her name. The air had changed again, thicker, charged. The sealed doors were gone now. In their place were open hallways, each leading deeper into the house than before. Rooms full of ancient scrolls, holograms of battles never recorded, star maps etched onto curved walls. In the central chamber, he found what looked like a cocoon, massive, translucent, gently pulsing. She was inside, floating, eyes closed, breathing slowly. A soft voice echoed in the room. Not hers. The house again. Or something older. She remembers all timelines. You must choose one. He stepped closer. Choose what? To remember. Or to remain. The cocoon shimmered. Her body shifted, light forming patterns across her skin. She looked peaceful, vulnerable, beautiful in a way that went beyond biology. He reached out, touched the cocoon, and in a flash everything returned. Not in fragments, not in glimpses, but all of it. He saw his life across galaxies. With her. Without her. Lost. Reborn. Repeating. Not a human married to an alien princess, but a soul spiraling endlessly through lifetimes, bound to hers by something deeper than fate. He stumbled back. Athena opened her eyes. They glowed brighter than any sun. And then she spoke, not aloud but into him. Now you remember. And now you're ready. The first thing Harrison noticed after the cocoon vanished was the silence. Not just the absence of sound, but the absolute quiet of a moment suspended in time. Athena stood before him now. Awake. Changed. Taller somehow, though her form had not shifted. Her presence had become more than physical. It pressed on the room like gravity. Say it, she whispered. He didn't ask what. He already knew. Raymar, he said. The word rang through the chamber, vibrating in the bones of the estate, in the molecules of the air. Lights flickered in the high vaults above them. The pulse of something old, ancient beyond the age of species, stirred beneath the floor. A deep, resonant sound echoed from below, not from machines, but from the planet itself, as if the Earth had just remembered something too. Do you understand now? Athena asked. I don't know, Harrison said honestly. But I feel it. And he did. Not just emotionally, but spiritually. A buried weight, locked in his chest his entire life, had dissolved. And what replaced it was not lightness, but awareness. He could see differently now. The air shimmered faintly around Athena, not from heat, but from energy. Her aura, once invisible, now painted the room in colors he didn't have words for. Blues that weren't blue. Shadows that sang. And when he looked at his own hands, he saw the same glow building, faint but growing. You've only just awakened, she said, stepping closer. The bond between us was not ceremonial. It was a catalyst, a signal to the greater forces watching. Who's watching? He asked, voice low. Her eyes darkened slightly. Everyone. She led him through the eastern wing, down a passage that had never existed until now. The architecture changed the deeper they went. Less regal, more organic. The walls became like stone, etched with moving symbols. Some shifted when Harrison passed, reacting to his presence. Athena spoke as they walked. Long ago, our people discovered that peace could not be enforced with weapons, nor sustained by words. It had to be written into the soul's evolution, through resonance, through reincarnation. You mean destiny? No. Choice repeated across lifetimes. At the end of the hallway stood a massive door, marked with 4 glowing emblems. Harrison's heart skipped when he recognized one. The same symbol he'd once traced into the dirt without understanding it. You were born knowing things no one taught you, Athena said, resting her palm on the seal. Because some truths are carried, not learned. The door opened. Inside, a chamber opened into a vast underground dome, ringed with ancient technology, half-grown, half-built. Floating memory cores hovered above glowing water. A sphere the size of a starship pulsed in the center, suspended by pure energy. "This is the Vault of Echoes," she said. He stepped inside. "What is it?" "Our true history," she said. "Unfiltered. Forbidden. Not by law, but by fear." She guided him toward the sphere. Its surface rippled, inviting. "I brought you here because it's time you saw." When his fingers touched the sphere, his vision dissolved. He fell, not in space, but in consciousness, into a river of memory not his own. And he saw civilizations of light spread across nebulae, collapsing under their own brilliance. Beings with 1,000 forms arguing in tongues that echoed backwards through time. Two races, human and Alarian, not enemies but splinters of a single origin, long separated after a cataclysm known only as the fracture. He saw Athena standing on a battlefield, leading forces into the void, not for conquest but to stop something. A being. A presence without name or body, only hunger. The Voidborn. It fed not on matter but meaning, on stories, on identity. It erased civilizations not by destroying them, but by unmaking their memory. And once, in a lifetime long ago, Harrison had stood beside Athena at the edge of the last gate, their hands linked in defiance, refusing to forget what they were. Their love had sealed the rift. Their bond had held the stars together. But the Voidborn wasn't destroyed, only delayed. And now the signal had been sent. It was coming back. He jolted awake. The chamber flickered, stabilizing. Athena watched him with quiet intensity. "You saw it," she said. He nodded slowly. "It's coming again." She nodded. "Why me?" he asked. "Why not someone trained for this? I'm not a warrior. I'm not chosen." "You are," she said gently. "But not because of skill or title. Because your soul remembers how to resist." "I'm afraid," he admitted. "So am I." That night, they sat in the old library beneath the glass dome, watching phantom constellations dance across the ceiling. "I used to believe emotions were a liability," Athena said softly. "My people were taught that bonds weaken judgment. But you chose to bond anyway." "I didn't choose," she said. "I recognized. When I looked at you, I remembered. And memory is power." Harrison was quiet for a long time. "I still feel like me," he said. "But more stretched. Like I'm wearing a much older version of myself." She smiled. "You are." They didn't speak for several minutes. And then, without ceremony, without pretense, Harrison reached across the table and touched her hand. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't sexual. It was affirmation. Two fragments reunited after light years of forgetting. Later that night the estate shook. Not from seismic activity, but from pressure, an incoming frequency pressing on its outer barriers. Athena stood at the balcony, face hard, body still. "It's begun," she said. Harrison joined her. "The Voidborn." "No," she said. "The world's reaction." Across Earth, sensors were lighting up. The awakening had sent ripples through space-time. Intelligence agencies, deep AI sentinels, even rogue alien hunters were tracking the anomaly. The treaty was no longer just diplomacy. It was prophecy. And prophecies are rarely received kindly. "Others will come for us," Athena said. "Some to help. Others to kill." "Then we don't run," Harrison said. Her eyes turned to him, full of memory and pain and hope. "We prepare," she whispered. The next morning, he found her standing in the garden. The air was humming again, but this time it was stronger, focused. She placed a small crystalline object into his palm. "What is this?" he asked. "A key." "To what?" "To yourself," she said. And when he gripped it, it dissolved into light. Pain flooded him, blinding, electric, cosmic. He fell to his knees. Athena knelt beside him, placing her hands on his chest. "This is your power," she whispered. "Not given. Not implanted. Unlocked." His breath returned with a sharp gasp. And then he rose. Not just Harrison Blake. Not just a diplomat, a human, a man. But something older. Something remembered. Harrison didn't sleep the night before the invasion. Neither did the sky. It pulsed with tension, as though the fabric of reality had thinned and the stars held their breath. The earth, unaware of the ancient war brewing, spun quietly beneath a sky it had long taken for granted. But in the hidden sanctum of the Ilarian estate, two beings stood on the edge of something that would rewrite history again. Harrison and Athena stood at the highest balcony, the winds swirling with unnatural heat. In the far horizon, lights blinked in the clouds, not lightning. Small at first, silent, observing. "They're here," she said. He didn't have to ask who. The Voidborn did not arrive in a roar. They unfolded, peeling reality like paper, sliding through gaps between seconds. Not seen, but felt, like cold breath on the back of the mind. Athena's lips moved in an ancient language, forming shields that shimmered over the land. Her voice stitched words into the air. Glyphs carved themselves mid-flight and vanished. Harrison stood beside her. Not the man who had stumbled into a peace marriage. Not the man who once thought diplomacy alone could fix everything. But a soul awakened. And he was ready. They came not with weapons, but with forgetting. All across the globe, memories fractured. Entire cities paused as people forgot what they were doing, who they were, why they loved. Statues crumbled not from age, but from the erosion of meaning. History books turned to blank pages. Lovers looked at one another and asked, "Do I know you?" Athena turned to him. "They've begun unraveling thought itself. How do we stop that?" "You don't fight forgetting with force," she said. "You fight it with something stronger." He understood now. The smile. The moment it began. The Voidborn didn't attack the body. They attacked the self. And the only shield against erasure was connection. Athena reached for his hand. "Do you trust me?" "Always." Their palms met and light surged from the contact. A bond older than planets reignited, visible now, a glowing helix stretching between them, pulsing in rhythm with their hearts. Athena's body began to glow, lines of ancient script dancing across her skin. Her eyes turned silver, not reflective, but endless. The vault's energy surged up into the air. Reality bent. The Voidborn noticed. They pressed harder. But Harrison did not collapse. He remembered everything. Not because it was easy, but because he chose to. They stepped forward together into the storm. The first wave of the Voidborn took shape. Dark silhouettes woven from forgotten names, drifting on shadows that moved too slowly for their size. They hissed in silence, pointing at Harrison with hands made of absence. But the moment Athena smiled, they hesitated. Because that smile had broken them once before. It had undone galaxies by daring to hope. And she smiled again. Not with arrogance. With defiance. Harrison stepped forward, and a ripple exploded from his chest. Not a sound but a memory made solid. He remembered holding Athena's hand in 1,000 lives. He remembered dying for her. He remembered choosing her, even when he didn't know her name. That truth became a weapon. The Voidborn recoiled. From across the sky, others joined. Ships cloaked in crystal emerged above the clouds, Ilarian guardians who had waited, watched, until the ancient prophecy rekindled. Otherworldly beings from fractured realms stepped through gates and portals that hummed in forgotten keys. Not all came to help. Some came to claim what they thought Harrison had become. But the earth itself stood with him. Because now it remembered too. The land beneath the estate cracked, and from it rose the echo engine, the heart of the old alliance. Powered by resonance, fed by shared memory, lit by emotion once thought weak. Athena channeled it through her voice, her blood, her soul. And Harrison stood beside her as the bond, now complete, blazed outward like a second sun. The Voidborn screamed without sound. Their shapes wavered. Cracks appeared in the darkness. They tried to speak, but no one could understand. Because language is rooted in meaning. And Harrison no longer feared his. He stepped forward, held Athena's hand tightly. "I know who I am," he whispered. "Say it," she said. "I am Harrison Blake, and I love you." I've loved you in every lifetime. And I always will. And the moment the words escaped his lips, the void blinked. A ripple snapped across spacetime. Stars that had dimmed blinked back to life. It wasn't a battle. It was a remembrance. And the voidborn, beings of forgetting, could not survive where memory was absolute. They unraveled like dust in wind. Each one screamed as it vanished, its form swallowed by a force it could never control. Meaning. Silence returned. Real silence. Not the hollow absence from before, but peace. Real, earned, remembered. Harrison fell to his knees, exhausted but alive. Athena knelt beside him, resting her forehead against his. They said nothing for a long time. Words weren't needed. They had said them all before. 2 weeks later, the Earth voted to renew the interstellar alliance. The news hailed Harrison and Athena as diplomatic icons. But no one ever quite understood what happened that night. They couldn't. Some things aren't meant to be explained. Only remembered. On their final evening before returning to the stars, Harrison and Athena walked hand in hand through the glowing garden. The flowers, once still, now turned toward them as if bowing. You never answered me, Harrison said. That first night, when I asked why you smiled. She laughed, soft and distant. Because I remembered you. And that was enough? No, she whispered. That was everything. He kissed her hand gently. And this time, she smiled not for memory. Not for the past. But for the life ahead. As their ship rose into the sky, Earth beneath them shimmered in morning light. A world that had almost been forgotten now alive with color, meaning, and history. In the observation window, Harrison watched the planet shrink. Athena stood beside him, her hand over his heart. And just before they jumped to light speed, she leaned close and whispered, "Wherever we go next, don't forget to smile." And he did. As stars wrapped around them, the smile broke the dark. Just like it always had.